Hi, how are you all doing today? Welcome to another Wednesday's Album Club with my always awesome co-host. We got Jim from Eihwaz Recordings. What's going on, Jim?
Oh, not much at all. Just happy to be here and talk about some black metal.
Right on. Kellen from Killing for Company. How's it going, man?
I'm doing all right. Excited for this one.
We got rookie mistake TJ up there in the corner. Turn on his Bluetooth blasphemous turntable there.
Jealous much?
How you doing, TJ?
Oh, I gotta piss. That's pretty much it. But we're gonna hammer through. We're gonna get there. The old prostate isn't gonna get the best of me tonight, boys.
There you go. That's why you have a Mountain Dew cup in there. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind people that we are also on Twitch. For some people, that's a big deal. I don't know. We're on Twitch. We're also on Instagram. So look up Heavy Metallurgy channel on Instagram and give us a follow. That would be cool. I've been trying to build that up a bit. But tonight we are, yes, Jim is correct. He chose this album last week, Gorgoroth Under the Sign of Hell, their third album. A little bit of info, very minor. Gorgoroth is a Norwegian black metal band based in Bergen, Norway. It was formed in 1992 by guitarist Infernus, who is also the only original member remaining in the band. And they have since released 10 full-length studio albums. Gorgoroth are a satanic band and have drawn controversy due to some of their concerts, which have featured impaled sheep heads and mock crucifixions. The band is named after the dead plateau of darkness in the land of Mordor from J.R.R. Tolkien's fantasy novel, The Lord of the Rings. And they are not the only Norwegian band that named themselves after a Tolkien tale, for sure. But
the regular cottage industry naming bands after Tolkien crap.
It sure is. Yep. I mean, he was a wealth of band names for sure. But yeah, let's get right into this. Since Jim picked it, let's go with Kellen first. Your first impression.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have this one, so I've been listening to it for a while. First impression, this is a band that, for me, plays a style of very simplistic Norwegian black metal. I guess revisiting it, some of the things I kind of discovered was just this is a bit of a transitional album relative to Pentagram and Antichrist that came out before it. But a few of the performances here are exceptional and noteworthy. We'll kind of get into the songwriting, but this was a band that was sort of known for its simplicity, and Under the Sign of Hell is sort of a little bit of a departure for what I think at this point in time, 1997, what Gorgoroth had been known for. So we'll get into it, but yeah, it was a fun time, like revisiting this record. I haven't listened to any Gorgoroth in a while, and yeah, good record.
All right, TJ, your thoughts?
Yeah, so my first impression is this was I was trying to figure out if Lars Ulrich had hired his drum engineer to record his snare drum on Death Magnetic.
Saint Anger, actually.
Was it Saint Anger? Yeah, there it is. But no, I wanted to hate this. Like most black metal stuff, I want to hate it. I hate a lot of it. I have no apologies for that. It's just a style of metal that I'm not going to ever really be able to fully reconcile myself to for multitudinous reasons. But every once in a while, something comes along and surprises me. My first listen to this, I have a set of headphones that I carry at work, and I ran it through that, and I was just like, what? It was losing me. And I come home tonight, and I ran through it 3 times, actually. And it was like I had to look at my phone. I was telling Marty, I'm like, is this the same record? I was like, what the hell? It just totally became a different thing altogether.
Did you end up listening to the reissued one?
I don't. Their Spotify doesn't have it, so all I got was the 2011 version of it. Whatever.
That's the 2011 version is the redone one.
Or that's what I listened to. That's what I listened to. I didn't listen to the original. I don't know where if maybe there's a version of that on YouTube. Maybe I have to look and see.
So you didn't even listen to the album we were supposed to cover tonight, then?
What are you talking? What are you talking about?
There's 2 versions of this. There's the original one, which is this one, and then there was
That's
a redone.
the one I listened to. That's the one I listened to. The one with
Okay.
that cover on it.
Okay.
So what are you talking about?
All right. Well, they
All right.
they re-recorded it in at a certain point. Was it 2011?
Yeah, it's 2011.
I don't
The 2011 cover is very similar. It's just dark, a little darker, but the same picture.
Well,
Same music. So
nobody made any demands that I dig up the original and listen.
But you mentioned that the snare sounded crappy on the first song, which it does on the original. So
Yeah,
you probably
yes.
at some point figured out
you probably heard both.
You probably heard both. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I've got here is the 2011. So I don't know what to tell you. So hey, look, man, I'm trying to tell you.
Music, I'm telling you.
Well,
die, Spotify, die.
I don't know. I have my issues with YouTube Music, so I don't know. But I don't know what you're shitting on me for. I ended up liking.
I'm not shitting.
You know,
when you said all of a sudden it sounded like better, I'm wondering if you listened to one album in your headphones and you listened to the other one.
It's just the way it come across. It was the whole thing. It was even because even the snare shit was like not even. It was just different through my stereo here.
Okay. You got you're good. You're good.
Yeah. So no, man. It was just like that. My first initial listen was like, what is going on with that snare drum? Is just like, what the hell?
It's really crazy on the first song, and then it like
it does. Yeah, it's kind of wild, but no, man. I definitely came around on this a lot. There's still probably kind of a bit of a love-hate thing here, but I wouldn't go that far. I was really kind of surprised how much I did end up enjoying this. But we can definitely get into it.
Sweet. Jim.
I picked it, obviously, I'm a fan of this record. Definitely wanted to, talk about it. It is a transition time for Gorgoroth, with Pest coming on board. My favorite albums are the first 2, Pentagram and Antichrist by Gorgoroth, but I do really like this one, even though I've spun it fewer times than I have the first 2, and Ad Majorum, which is like kind of when I came on board. I started late with Gorgoroth and went backwards, but I really like just the kind of insanity of this album in terms of like, I feel like it's almost got like a punk aesthetic in its attack, and a lot of early Gorgoroth does, but I feel it's even more psychotic on here, and that sort of freneticism that's throughout the record, where it feels just it's kind of off the rails a little bit the whole time, immediately appealed to me and still does. So yeah, looking forward to talking about everybody and breaking it down and getting deep in this one. So.
Yeah, I haven't spun this one in a while. It's been a while, and it's kind of funny pulling out this is a Century Black version of it. They licensed it here in the US, I think, from Malicious Records. Man, they just really ruined. I mean, the printing's too black on the back, so that's gone. You can see like a line right above Gorgoroth here, how it's like a shitty, the logo they put on there had a white line above. I don't know. It's just super.
Marty's label hat's coming on right now.
I mean, this is super crappy, like zero attention to detail. But anyway, it was cool listening to this record again. I'm typically a Pentagram Antichrist guy. Those are usually the 2 I grab for. So this one's often overlooked. I did have a bit where I was into the Gall stuff as well. I don't dislike his era. There's some good songs here and there for sure. But yep, this is Pest from Obtain Enslavement's first album with Gorgoroth. He's very similar to Hot or however you say his name. They're very similar, just heaving cancerous filth out of his vocal pipes. It's impressive. It's awesome. And you watch some live stuff from back in the day. He's just leaning into that microphone, just puking on it. It's great. It's so great. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a bit of a like everybody's already said, a transitional record. Their first two albums are no nonsense, short and to the point Norwegian black metal. This album here starts to take on more of a thrashy and, like Jim said, punk thing going on here, which it's not overbearing. It almost seems like they're being a little more influenced by Dark Throne on here, or the route that Dark Throne would take. 97, I don't think Dark Throne was really taking that path yet, but there were elements of that in their sound as well. But bands like Ara Noir and other things going on in Norway starting to incorporate more thrash into it, but kind of bled through into their writing for this record. But yeah, it was a lot of fun refamiliarizing myself with a record I haven't spun in a long time, and I'm very appreciative of the fact that it was only 32 minutes long, because I listened to it a good 6 times today. No problem. It's great to be able to have a record that's compact, short and compact, and you can get through it, So I've listened to this record quite a bit since you called it, Jim. So it's been fun. But yeah, let's talk about what's your question? Jim's got a question.
Yeah, obviously, as we stumbled around on the topic at the beginning,
I didn't do nothing. I did what I was told.
You did
I
good.
listened to this fucking record. Like, oh yeah,
we know you did, man. We know you did.
Look at Jim. There's another black metal record, TJ. Fine. Just you wait. The end of the show.
I promise I love
boy.
you, man. I promise I do. No, anyway, obviously, Peston and Furnace decided to re-record this 1997 release in 2011, and I remember a lot of people were just like, "What the hell is going on? Why are you guys doing this?" And and I honestly never really dug deep into why, or if I did, I don't remember. But I'd really like to pose the question in a larger sense, like when any band gets together and decides to re-record, specifically not remaster, but re-record entirely a new album and then re-release it, what do you guys feel like the motivations are? A lot of times the bands say, well, I just really didn't like the sound, or we just wanted to revisit that time period. Or do you guys really feel like it's just money generated? In Gorgoroth's case, I think it was an odd choice given their discography, because to your point, Marty, most people think of Pentagram, Antichrist as being at least in my circle of people, those are the essentials. So why this album? It's kind of an odd choice. So what do you guys think, and generally speaking about metal, when a band does that, what do you think their motivations are? And what is your feeling as a fan when a band decides to do that?
Great question. Oh, first of all, no baloney and Zaloni. I can never say your name. Thank you so much for the contribution. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Kellen, let's start off with you.
Yeah, so I did not dig into this, but I know as we were closing last week, it's something that you brought up, Jim. So I think most often, I think band members or the band collectively think that there was like a missed opportunity. Either they didn't have the funds to put together a proper production, or there's something that's left sort of unsatisfied with a previous release, and that's why you get a remaster. I have to say though, like the majority of the remasters I hear are terrible, or I never end up really enjoying them. And that's the majority. There may be exceptions there. So I don't know if it's like the shifting taste of the band members, given like potentially more success, more visibility. They think a record from their early years should be sort of revisited and remastered. But given that this band's sort of sound is raw, primitive black metal, it's an odd choice. So I don't know if in 2011 the sort of shifts in popularity for Norwegian black metal, the amount of visibility the band had, Gaul has sort of turned into a little bit of like a celebrity. I don't know, all of that sort of forced the band to revisit this record. But I would say, first and foremost, I would assume that there's some sort of artistic sort of issue with the production initially, and that's why most bands go back to re-record.
TJ.
Well, I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why. I mean, it could be, you take like where they want to take other artists off the recording, reissue a new recording with all new people on it, so they don't got to pay the other guys, or it's artistic, well, it sounded like crap, we wanted it to sound better. I'm not offended by the idea if they're going to bring something new to the table. I've seen some instances where they just go and re-record it, and they're not really doing anything other than just went to the studio, re-recorded the record, re-released it, maybe a new artwork or something. I think it's hard to kind of pin down any one real reason. It's always going to be kind of at, whatever the band has in their head at the time. I mean, a lot of people might think it seems like a waste, but if you're really, if you go back and you've been in, you've got a long career and you've had a lot of records out, and you're looking back and you're just like, that one always stands out to me, as the band or whoever's in control of the catalog, and now I've got the band, I've got the means and the wherewithal to go into the studio and do whatever I want with it now, and I can go in and I can completely re-envision the production, or, you look at like, when Memelli brought Pestilence back and he redid several songs off of Malleus Maleficarum. And,
that's right. He did that on the comeback album.
Yeah. And they were, I thought they were amazing. I thought they were just, because he re-envisioned these songs and he brought something new to them, and they were great. I mean, the original still rule, but and granted, this isn't a whole record, but it's still kind of to the point. He went and he took these tracks and he brought something new to them, and it was cool. I don't know. It seems to me like a lot of these bands, I think, the cash grab thing is definitely probably a part of it for some. It's like, well, let's put this record back out and see if we can get more mileage out of it. But then why re-record? Why go to the studio and go to all that hassle when you can just, get like a remaster done? But then, who knows? Did they lose the masters for this? Did those get destroyed and they didn't have them, so they couldn't remaster it? So they're like, what the hell with it? We're just going to go and we're going to redo it, bring new life to it, So I think there'd be a lot of reasons. It would be interesting, to get, to talk to some of the, like to these guys or whoever, and be like, what was your rationale here? What are you trying to accomplish? And did it work? But so I don't, having not heard the original, again, this is not a band that's ever been in my orbit ever. And, I know who they are and all the other whatever goes with them. So I don't have any perspective on any of that. But as far as re-recording records, well, I think we've all on some level of experience that are familiar with other releases and what have you. So I don't know. That's kind of my thinking on it, really. So.
Actually, Brian, Gorgoroth played the U.S. They played a Milwaukee Metal Fest. I saw them before the Metal Fest died. So yeah, I saw them with Gall and King of Hell. Okay, I guess I'm next. For me, Ben pretty much nailed it. I think the biggest motivating factor for a lot of bands is the fact that they may not own the rights to that album anymore. I think the original came out on Malicious Records, which is a long dead label, and maybe they couldn't reacquire the rights to it. So in order to get those rights back, they re-recorded it. Man of War did it. I mean, someone mentioned in here Ozzy and Sharon. I mean, their motivation behind it was to eliminate Bob Daisley from any sort of royalties on that record, which is super shitty. So, I mean, there's other, you listen to this record and the first song, the production is really janky, but after that, it sounds like a Gorgoroth record. I mean, they've never been, super high end recordings anyway. That's kind of the charm of underground lo-fi black metal. The dissonance adds to the atmosphere and the impact of the record, as long as everything can be heard, and everything can be heard here. Maybe they weren't happy with the recording, which is funny because it was recorded at Studio Grieghallen in 1996, probably by Python, who was known for Emperor and Hades and all the Immortal. All the bands went through Studio Grieghallen. It's got a very distinct sound with very huge drums. It's a classical music theater Anyway, I'm getting off track here, but I just think it was probably just to get them back, to get the rights back to the record. And do I care about such things? I think that was part of the question Jim proposed. I don't. And in fact, I should have listened to the other recording leading up to this, and it wasn't even on my radar because I've never owned it. And I have never been satisfied with a re-recording. It always, and I don't even like, to be honest, like remasters, remixed, remastered. You know, they take a classic. Let's take Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath, and remix it and remaster it. No, it sounds the way it was supposed to sound. I've been living my whole damn life listening to this record this way, and you're gonna modernize it. You're gonna brick wall the master. You're gonna ruin it.
A remastering can a remaster can really kill a recording. And it's like Jethro Tull re-released a lot, and I like Jethro Tull, and they did a bunch of remasters on a lot of the old shit, and it just sucks all the life out of those recordings, man. It just, you listen to the old vinyl and stuff, and you can hear everything, and it's so good. And when you start messing with stuff like that, it can so totally kill it, man.
Yep. And like the synaptic gap. When Dimmu Borgir redid that Stormblast, right? I love that Stormblast record. It's a great Norwegian black metal record. They redid it, and it sucks. It completely sucks. They did it with the new lineup.
It's horrible.
It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And like, why would you waste your time and money? I mean, other than you're putting your name on another product and putting it out there, and the fans are going to buy it no matter what. They're going to buy it. Like when Man of War did it, Man of Warriors are going to step up and repurchase Battle Hymns, which re-recording that album is sacrilege as well. It's stupid. I don't want to hear those songs sounding modern. I want to hear them sounding like they're recorded in the 80s on a tape machine. I don't want to hear Joey DeMaio's drum machine and digital bullshit. I'm getting off the beaten path here. But Jim, what are your thoughts on your own question?
I'm glad we were obviously come up with a good spirited discussion here, and a lot of great stuff in the comments. I loved Ben's point, which you reiterated. I hadn't even thought about that, but it's definitely a good reason that someone might consider is getting back control of the rights. I do think that, some people, if they're still in a position to re-record an album, they've got the means or the cachet, if you will, to go back and do it, say, I can't stand listening, I'm going to redo it, or whatever. But, I do think that, it's the one area for me that I would say just kind of art in general, but music specifically, where I don't think like new is always better. And it's, in fact, a lot of times it isn't, like when you buy a new guitar, it's worth it, I don't know, $500, $300, $1,000, depending on what you spend on it. But if you keep that same guitar for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and you keep it in great shape, it's worth a lot more. And more importantly, it sounds a lot better. And so to me, like, it's the same way with a record. When I hear a record at the time, it's capturing a moment in time. It sounds as good as they can make it sound at the time, or as bad if that's their intent, but it is the sound that they could capture, at the time based on their abilities or their means. And I'm okay with that. And to your point, Marty, like I'm the same way. I attach to the record.
Yep.
The way it sounds right then. So, I don't need the newness, I'm cool about, scientific advancement, bring on the AI, let's all, get killed by our monster machines. Let's do it. But in terms of my metal, like, I don't want you changing the past. And I don't think, no. I personally, as a fan, don't think it's necessary.
Nope.
Now you've got the right to do it. I'm sorry, go ahead. Somebody said something?
No, I say no. I was agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. I thought. Oh, yeah.
Nope.
But yeah, it's you've got that right to do that. It's your music. Do what you want. And I'm certainly not ever going to sit on here or any other platform and say that someone shouldn't do it. But I'm just going to say that as a fan, I'm checking out. I'm not going to be there. I did try, and I've tried before, but I tried again in preparation for this week to listen to the 2011 re-release. I couldn't even make it to the first song. I couldn't stand the way it sounded, and that's it. Just really it feels flat to me. you know, that freneticism that I referenced earlier, that punk vibe, that you know, we really don't care, you know, bargain based in production, you know, pushing out some punishing black metal, like all of that was gone. You know, it was just neutered, and you know, and so if someone wants to get behind that and you know, then that's fine. You know, no skin off my back. But again, for me, you know, art is best taken in the moment. And it's fine to look back and re-experience art as the way it was intended. I don't need somebody like, you know, repainting a Van Gogh. You know, I'm going to go look at the original.
Yep.
So that's my thoughts.
I mean, granted, if it's the only way you can get an album is to buy a reissue, by all means, buy that Merciful Fate remix remastered. But why replace? If you want to hear Don't Break the Oath louder, you turn it up. That's the beautiful thing about the old mastering techniques. They don't start off by just blasting the sound at you. If you want it louder, there's a lot of headroom. You can turn the damn thing up and get it to the desired sound, and it's going to sound great. These brick-walled remasters to modernize and sharpen up the drums and do all this crap, it's just gross. And like Jim said, I don't want you to fuck with the past when it comes to metal.
Well, there is the thing to consider too, though, for like from my perspective with this record, having not heard the original, you know, there's every likelihood had I gone and found a copy of that, I may not have had the same experience.
I think you did listen to the original. The way you described it, you listened to the original.
I don't know, because it's like if the productions are so very vastly different between the two, and I mean everything that I'm looking at says 2011. So it's saying that it's the reissue. So, I mean, I may very well not have had the same experience with this, because for me, when it comes to black metal stuff, it's like, that's where they start losing me, is the production on it, because I just, you know, I'm trying to listen to it and I'm so distracted by how horrible it sounds that I can't get into it. And, you know, and bands like Immortal doesn't hit me the same way. They don't, you know, maybe it's just, I don't know what it is about that band, but like with them, I don't get that vibe from, at least not from like the second record out anyway. But that being said, so it's like there is that connection that I made with this that came about because of the re-recording of it. So I don't know. I mean, I generally I agree with it's like going back and renewing it. Right on, Noah. Right on, Noah. I don't know. I ended up liking it, Noah. So, you know, just bear with me. But yeah, I mean, I still generally agree with you guys, but it's just, I wanted to point that out. It's like the re-recording of this, you know, I think it might have let me connect with it in a way that I might not have. I'm really interested to hear, of course, having not heard that first, my perspective is going to be a little skewed because I'll be more familiar with the songs, and I may still be, you know, I'll be able to dive into it and still be more like, oh, well, I still like this, but it sounds like shit more, you know, whatever. But, so yeah, again, though, going back and ruining the master just, you know, to satisfy some snobby audiophile, like, oh, I've got the, you know, like I was in the record store and I was looking at the Jethro Tull the one day, and he's all, oh, have you heard the remasters? Oh, they're so good. They're so clean and pure and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm going to get this one that's all ratted up here because this is an OG pressing, you know? And so, but anyway, I just wanted to make that point.
Right on. And hey, to the 48 people watching tonight, thanks for being with us. It's good to see our numbers growing on a Wednesday night. So cheers to all you folks. We appreciate it. Okay, that goes to discuss the musicality and composition of Under the Sign of Hell. Let's start with you, Kellen.
So for me, Gorgoroth was always a band that almost seemed to be like, I don't want to say reactionary, but at some level, the Norwegian black metal scene, at least in my experience, started by 1994 when the debut record comes out. There's this whole other element of like, yes, however satanic it is, also simultaneously this sort of communion with the outdoors, right? And Gorgoroth to me seemed to sort of put their foot down and be like, we are absolutely not going to be about that. This is pure, raw, satanic Norwegian black metal. Like, they've seemed very deliberate in their design in terms of what they were going to kind of play. And this record, I think I find it to be a bit of a transition because the sound opens up a little bit. I don't know how much of that is the addition of Pest. or it's just the band in general. But this record, it's not purely like, to Jim's point, there's not a lot of blasting throughout this entire record. It's a lot of sort of backbeat, sort of thrash driven. There's some open sort of doomier moments as well. The vocal performance, even at times, there's like a weird, he'll whisper, or this strange vocal sort of singing will happen, which seems very much like a page from something that Attila would do. But this record seems incredibly diverse relative to Pentagram and Antichrist. So the songwriting here seems to have sort of diversified a little bit. But for the most part, it's this sort of mid-paced, sort of thrashy stuff. The songs are pretty short. I think the longest one's just a little over 6 minutes. But they're kind of straightforward, pure, as a band in terms of the kind of black metal they're playing. This is still relative by 1997 to what's going on, pretty stripped down. This record by 1997, I think, is actually primitive relative to its peers. So in that sense, it remains a Gorgoroth record, but there's some new sort of wrinkles they've introduced into their sound that make it a little bit more entertaining than just what I think is their other sort of pinnacle record, which is Pentagram, their debut, which I love just for its purity, for its simplistic sort of attack. And this record, though, is a little bit more interesting in terms of the songwriting. That's kind of the things I came away with after listening to this past time.
Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with Colin that there's a lot of variety, I think, on Under the Sign of Hell that maybe wasn't as present on the first two records. Though I no disrespect to those first records, they're my favorites, and I love them, and I love how raw and to the point they are. But this is when these guys are starting to experiment, with like some weird electronics. Ben mentioned in the chat, and he's right on Propheten's Oppenbarang. That's when Pest does his clean vocal, like it's sort of out of key, kind of like
trying to sound like Fenris from Storm and Isengard. Yeah.
Or even like Attila, really, on De Mysterious, when Till's kind of trying to do that too. It's that same sort of like low register vibrato thing that's like just this side of like being in key, but I love it. Like every time it comes on, it makes me smile. I don't know if a smile is what Pest intended right there, but that's what happens. But it's that, and then there's the postludium, which is like their sort of Tears in a Prophet's Dream, weird sounds and dudes croaking and moaning and just some crazy horror movie type stuff going on, they're really sort of like, and even with like the we've already touched on it, Revelation of Doom has the clack 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 snare, just punishing this over and over. Like the first time I heard it, I thought it was a drum machine, and then you go to you look up Gorgoroth, you look on the albums. Oh wait, no, they have a drummer. Okay, and like the drum set, that snare is just bizarre and like way up in the mix and crazy. It sounds like someone's hitting an empty cardboard box upside down with a stick over and over. And then it gets more and more tame though as the album goes on, which is really really crazy. It's the same snare sound, but it gets more tolerable. It's a little less crazy on the second song, then it's kind of normal on the third, and it's like really normal the rest of the record. So, and even that right there, I think is Gorgoroth sort of moving past just being primitive and just trying new things, and just not even really caring if they work or not. But I'm good with it. Like every time I hear it, like it just for some reason it doesn't impinge on my ears in a negative way. Like I want to hear it, so yeah, I think, compositionally it's a progression from Gorgoroth. They got a new singer in, though Pest, I think, is, just as up to the challenge as Hat was, or, in terms of, delivering that just like, blood curdling, screamy vocal, like and just what you want for this kind of black metal. And, even though like, and there was that noisy factor, it was present on Pentagram and Antichrist. I think they even go further on it. That there's more like feedback at the end of songs. There's more just noise going on through the course of the songs and everything. So I think in their own sort of like, kind of like punk, kind of like metal punk kind of way, like we're caring even less now about, like staying, on the rails in terms of a typical recording than we have before. And it kind of it laid the groundwork for the absolute just nuttiness of Destroyer. Like it just sounds like, and it kind of is like two different bands on that record,
Yeah.
But I think this one's more of a controlled chaos. So compositionally, musicality, I think they really showed. I don't want to call it a progression, but I would call it an evolution, just doing something different. And I'm appreciative of where they went to on this third full length.
All right, TJ.
Yeah, I love how consistent and solid all the songwriting is on this. I like how you can really get into the riffs. The production, I like, I like Immortal, and this was hitting me in a way like Immortal does. Like I could connect with it, and I was, the riffing. Like it was there was some of it that was coming, like especially with the different production, obviously different production on this. The way I was getting it, there's some real heavy spots and that are striking me like more like a death metal and thrashy in some ways. I was really in like the Norse folk vocal that he does there a little bit. I don't necessarily care for that all that too much, but in the context of what they were trying to do, I think it worked. It was cool. The first time I heard it, I was kind of like, fucking A, whatever. But after about the third time through the record, I was really kind of digging it. I love, the vocals are scathing. The performance is ferocious. And it's very consistent. There are, like Kellen, there's some doomy, some parts that do slow down. Get a little bit moody, and everything in the, there's nothing over the top about any of these arrangements. They're very to the point. The riffs all play their role. They come in, they lather, rinse, repeat when they need to. And they get good mileage out of them. And then 32 minutes, the record just kind of comes in and comes out and does what they're trying to do with it. And I found it to be really listenable and cool. I was really surprised. Like I said, I wanted to hate this. I tried to hate it. Like any black metal band, I want to hate you right out of the gate. But
we'll have you wearing corpse paint in no time, man.
Yeah. Hey, I've got my Abbott box set with his signature corpse paint in there, and when the day comes, I will bust that baby out.
Piece comes out with.
Oh yes, grim and frostbitten blubber.
I definitely want to see TJ crab walk, man. I gotta see it.
Oh yeah. That would be
grim and frostbitten blubber.
Yeah, I get down in the position, I'll never get back up.
Yep. You need a lift to get him out of that position. I've seen it.
Right, for sure. But no, man, I think there's some really killer riffing on this. The performance of this record is what sells a lot of it too. And I do, as I see in the comments, people making comparisons to like Attila and stuff. And I absolutely I admire the shit out of Attila as a vocalist. Even though he sings with a lot of bands that I don't necessarily listen to, there's some stuff. What's that? Keep of Callison or Callison or whatever, that EP. They put out
that Reclaim EP is awesome.
Man, that just
Come Damnation. Oh, so there's some great songs on that thing.
That's so good, man. I tried getting into some of their later stuff, and I just really couldn't connect with it. But I love that EP.
Yeah, it's great EP.
But Attila, just man, and I was getting those vibes off of this for real. I think he's just an absolutely, and I've been fronting metal bands for a long time, and I wish I had. I mean, to me, I look at that stuff, and I look at that, and I think that's like, it's bold, it's brave. He's just like, I mean, some of the stuff he does is just so goofy and random, but his conviction, he's bringing it. He's like, I'm gonna, and whatever the hell, all that crazy, and it's so cool. you know, because he's really trying to sell it. You know, he's not like, I'm not trying to be an idiot. I'm trying to do some kick-ass shit here and trying to artistic and whatever. And to me, it's inspiring. I think it's cool, you know, for metal vocals in the extreme side, you know. So I really I just love the ferocious attack of it, and even the Norse folk thing was kind of cool. And so, yeah, for sure, man, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in there.
All right. Well, for me, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And they basically took, I mean, there's a lot of people in the chat saying, you know, Gorgoroth always struck them as like a second tier Norwegian black metal band. In a lot of ways, they kind of are. I mean, they have their place, and they, you know, they've done the time. They came out at the right time. But, you know, I hear like the Nordic, what song was it? I can't remember. Profetens Appenbaring. That's the song. It reminded me of Isengard or Storm, with Fenris singing in that nationalistic, you know, Norwegian beer hall song style. It sounded like that to me. So it fit. It worked. The first time I heard it, I'm like, oh, chuckles. But, you know, it fits. It works. And they, you know, keep the song in a black metal sphere. So I think the songwriting is really good. I do like the thrashier edge on occasion, but when they hunker down into the, you know, the traditional, I call it dissonant riffing, but there's a sense of melodicism to it. It just seems like a product of Norway, which I really like. I've always really gravitated towards the Norwegian scene. Big fan of it. And Gorgoroth, even though they may not be, you know, top tier band, even though they're held in high regard, they're doing a good job, and they always have done a good job. There's been a few albums here and there, you know, during the whole Gaul and the whole. I have not heard some of their later albums, to be honest. I think I heard the one where Pest came back for one final thing, but anyway, I think the songwriting is really good on this. I like the thrashier moments. I will say, I think this album, for being 32 minutes long, you can tell they did not have enough material, and they had to pad it out to get to 32 minutes, because you've got the track Post Ludium. It's just backwards masking thing, growling, screaming type bullshit. And then the Rite of Infernal Invocation. It starts off as a black metal track. About almost before the halfway point, the song stops and it goes into like an off in the distance jet engine sound for 2 or 3 minutes. I said, so it seems like they had a certain amount. Gorgoroth never struck me as a very prolific band. Infernus was always kind of the main guy. It was kind of usurped from him for a while, but in these early years, he's writing a lot of this stuff. You could tell he didn't have enough shit, so they're padding it out with all this, you know, dark ambient, satanic noise shit. It's just a waste, and it kind of fucks with the flow of this record a little bit for me, but it comes back around. It all comes back together. I think it's a well done album compositionally. I like the changes they've made in upgrading their sound a little bit, as far as going with the times, you know, adding a little R noir to their Dark Throne, if that makes any sense. But yeah, did I get everybody? Is everybody spoken on that? Yep. Production, TJ.
I mean, you know, compared to a lot of other bands, you know, their peers, I wasn't overly offended by the production on this at all. It's very crisp. It's very clear. You know, at least the version I listened to, you can hear everything. Everything cuts through. I mean, yeah, the bass is kind of drowned out of it. You know, I've got a powered sub on my big system, so I was getting some low end. But there's actually a lot of riffing on this record that does bring in some pretty heavy, you know, some heavier stuff to it. So. You know, I was kind of surprised by that, but I think the production overall, for what it is, I mean, it was cool. I was not, it didn't ruin it. I mean, that's, like I said before, generally where I go off the rails with these kind of bands, you know, with this style of metal, is where they lose me at the production. You know, you sit here and you know, you've sat here and tried to sell me on that damn Over record for years, and it's just like, dude, I can't listen to that piece of fucking shit.
You should listen to Berg. You should listen to Bergtot. That's actually well produced,
You know,
and really good.
I'll have to check it out, you know. And it's like it's like, yeah, the riffs are cool, but man, it's just like trying to listen to that horrible production. I just can't do it, man.
Is it Nathan's Madrigal? Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, and so I just can't do it, you know. And this doesn't hit me that way, you know. It's definitely blackened. It's definitely, you know, what it is, but I was cool with it, you know. It all worked in context for me, you know. So I was down with it, you know.
Jim. Oh, wait, which question was this? Sorry.
Production.
Production. Yeah. Got lost there for a minute. I love this production. I think for the era, mid-90s Norwegian black metal, it's perfect. It's exactly what I would expect. And as I mentioned before, I like the weird, crazy snare at the beginning. Like it sort of reminded me of like listening to like an Ildjarn record, you know, where it's just like, and I think an entire album of that would have been too much, you know. But as a lead off track, it sort of ends up being one of my favorite songs on the record because of that snare insanity. And you know, and typically, you know, we as metalheads don't like, you know, too crazy snares. We all make the Saint Anger joke, and I've seen, you know, a lot of people mention in the chat and everything, and yeah, it's awful. But then you've got bands like Antediluvian, their entire snare sound is that Saint Anger sound, but you know, they're kind of like, you know, embraced more in the underground or whatever. But anyway, but here I think, and maybe it's because the tonality of the snare is more of like a low end. It isn't just this ear piercing as that twangy piccolo thing that was going on in Saint Anger. Like I feel like I can take it a lot better. And you know, another thing I like is everybody knows I love the distorted bass. Well, it's a great distorted bass sound on this record. It's ever present, and actually, what's really strange, again, how the snare sound comes down and it becomes more tolerable. The bass sound at the beginning of the album is kind of low, but then it starts getting louder and louder. And specifically on, and I'm going to butcher this because I don't speak Norwegian, but O Del Legas Og Undergong. I wish, if you know Undergong, there we go. He's got some death metal there, but that word is in there. But the distorted bass on that's when it's really high up in the mix on that song, and it drives it. It just pushes Infernus's riffing even further and makes it, really, really powerful. You know, that's this, you know, I think it really all comes together. That's sort of like the nexus of the record for me, is that sort of middle album when the bass is really there. So great production choice on the bass. And I don't know if that weird, like, we're going to take this instrument and bring it down, we're going to take this one and bring it up during the course of the record was just a mistake, or if it was intentional, but for whatever reason, like, I do, so my ears sort of latch onto it, you know, the weird playing, with the mix like on the album itself, and I like it. I for some reason, even though it's really bizarre, it just appeals to it appeals to me. It adds like a little more, and I don't want to use the word mystery, but will use the word intrigue on the record. You know, that weird decision making that we're going to knob this one down, we're going to knob this one up, you know, between each song. It really kind of stands out to me. So production wise, I think it's great. I do agree with Marty. I do think the weird sounds that they do, even though from a experimentation perspective, I'm cool with them doing it, and I think it's cool for a first pass, but it does sort of like hurt some of the songs, like the Rite of Infernal Invocation, which is actually one of my favorite tracks. You're Marty, right? When you hear that weird wind noise come on at the end of the song, that's like 2 minutes of it. It's like, come on, guys. I mean, no one wants to
did something with I have no problem with noise and that dark ambient shit, but they don't do anything with either of these moments. We're doing it, but they're not. It's not interesting. It's boring. It's filler.
You just, after like a minute of it, you just want to, okay, I'm done with this track, and you're skipping to the next one. So
exactly.
So I do. While some of those choices stylistically don't add to the album, and I don't think the production really helped there either. other than that little caveat, like I think this is a perfect sounding Norwegian black metal album from the era. And I know a lot of people are saying top tier, and maybe in terms of sales, Gorgoroth is, but outside of the big, what I call the big five, which is, Burzum, Immortal, Mayhem, Darkthrone, and Emperor, for me, Gorgoroth is right up there, just right there. And this album, I think, their attack and their songwriting, is what gets them there. So.
All right, Kellen.
Yeah, so I won't go any further on our snare drum.
You froze,
commentary.
Kellen.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I can leave and come back if you want to go, Marty.
Well, I'll go ahead and you jump out and come back in. Production for me. I think other than the snare on that, the Saint Anger snare is annoying. I don't know why they did that, other than let's get their attention and really, put that up there. And they started off, what is it? Yeah, Revelation of Doom. That's the first track. It's just a good mission statement. It's fast, it's blasting, and they kind of kill it for me with that snare. But like we've all determined, as the album goes, that snare decreases and becomes normal again. But yeah, I mean, the production is 1997 underground black metal production. It's fine. It's in the zone. I have no problems with it. It sounds the way it should, other than that snare and the weird wonky mix of everything really on that first song. The first song is just mixed so strange. I don't get it. But other than that, I have no problems. There's the filthy noise in the, they Pest vocals are mixed in such a way where there's a little bit of peak distortion in it as well, which adds to the performance of him just heaving out his guts. I love it. And it's, you can hear everything. It sounds like a Norwegian black metal record from the time. What do you think, Kellen?
Yes, what I was going to say is we've kind of gone over the initial sort of snare reaction here, but the kick drums on this record, they're, I think, something that I really had to dial in and put my headphones on and pay attention to, because there's an incredible amount of weight and force, but they're so deep in the mix to try whatever frequency or range they're working at. You'd probably have to drive it out of TJ's sub in order to get the full sort of impact of it. But it's really cool. Once you finally are able to capture that bottom end of this record, when they sort of lay down and start sort of steamrolling through a track, this is a pretty heavy record. And then I guess the other part of it is the guitar tone here. I think actually is probably one of the more consistent elements on the record. It's got, like you mentioned, there's a certain kind of style that they implemented with the guitars and Pest's vocals. You kind of talked about almost that peaking or upper end distortion where it's pushing the top of whatever range they're supposed to be in, where it's pushing the microphone. I think it's a great guitar sound, and relative to Antichrist, I think this record actually sounds a little bit more unruly. The production here, I feel, is more aggressive, where when I was listening to the past, the couple of records prior to it, I think this actually sounds a bit more aggressive. So for the album, it's supposed to be sort of a little bit more of a, I don't want to say experimentation or maturation. They didn't lose any edge. The last piece I want to say is Pest's performance on this vocally. So I don't know if it's just him as a performer, where they place him in the mix, but I feel like if they were on a stage, he would literally be pushing everyone else out of the way to get to the center of the stage on this performance, on this record. I don't know if it's anything in the production. It may be, but he dominates, in terms of the absolute, the emotional force behind his voice on this record is palatable. I don't doubt his emotional conviction when he's screaming at me. And I don't know if that's really even a production issue, but by no means did they do anything to diminish that. I think he sits front and center during the entire course of this record and is by far the standout performance, and the production highlights that. So that's the one sort of like, contributing factor I think is important to highlight is, I don't know if it's just him as a performer or the production here, but it's a major talking point on this record.
I do want to ask. Go ahead, Jim. I mean,
I was just gonna say, well said, Callan. I completely agree about past vocals. Well said.
100%. I do want to, hopefully a lot of you folks in the comments in the chat know Kellen's channel. He's been down this rabbit hole of upgrading his system, and from an audiophile perspective, I'm just curious. An album like this, it's not horribly produced. It's forceful. It's raw on purpose. But I mean, albums like this, how does it sound on a super high end system? Does it polish the turd essentially, or does it just kind of make it worse? I'm just curious.
No, but I think it was interesting to TJ's point about, like, we understand what you don't want to diminish or mute on a record, like, in the sense that you would go into some systems and they would attempt to sort of quell this like upper end distortion element, like how much the leading edge is sort of aggressive. Some audiophiles that'd be like, oh, that's unlistenable. And I think where for someone like myself and for us, we don't want a system to truncate that, right? We don't want them to diminish. Like, yes, it's supposed to be punishing. I know what this sounds like. And if I play it through a system and it seems like rolled off, like your system has sort of quelled what is the most aggressive and impertinent aspect to a record. So like I can get into the things I've done for this, but I just would say it's something that for metal fans, we have to pay attention to. Is like, I don't want, when I'm listening to scathing black metal, I don't want a system to sort of suppress that in any way. If I play this record through my system and it feels like soft or gentle or smooth or mushy, like fuck it, like it's completely lost its meaning. So you're trying to find a way to navigate that. And I think that the biggest thing I noticed is I don't have in my system anything that kicks at around below 40 hertz. So the bottom end of this record felt lessened when I was playing it through my speakers, but I put it through my headphones and I wasn't competing with like the reverberating bass on the walls, and I was able to sort of focus it. Perfect. So it's that kind of stuff that I feel like we as metal fans are navigating when we're making decisions about, what's important to us in our sound.
Right on. Okay, let's get into favorite, least favorite songs. TJ, we'll start with you.
I didn't really have it. I will make a point. I was looking real quick and I did pick out, it looks like in the re-release, Postludium is not listed on the re-release as a track. So
which is a good one to cut, because it's just like a backwards
everything else is
growling type thing. It's
everything else is the same, but I was looking at because I did find an OG version of it on YouTube Music, so that's cool. Point to Jim on that one. As far as best, least fave, what is it? Profentus Open Bung.
Nailed it.
I had Fentus Open Bung once. It was not good. I just sit on a donut for a while.
Yeah, profiling the open bung, whatever it is. Bloodstains a Circle and Rite of Infernal Invocation. I thought those tracks would kind of stand out. There was nothing on here that I hated. The opening track, I thought they could have picked a different opener. It was good. I thought it definitely comes in at you, but the snare and all that stuff, whatever. But overall, I liked the whole record. I don't really have any real complaints about any of the tracks. There's some standout tracks for it. For the sake of this conversation, but otherwise, yeah, I'm good.
Kellen.
So my favorite track, I will see your Prophetus Open Bung and raise you a Odeleg Sing Og Undergong.
Underbung.
But track number 6 that opens side B, I think is the most complete song on the record. It just, in terms of all the different aspects that Under the Sign of Hell introduces, it's got like a decent solo. It's got slow parts. It got fast parts. It got mid-paced. It just does everything. If I were to like steer someone towards a song on this record that would give them a glimpse into what everything it has to offer, that'd be my choice. I do think there are 2 other songs that stand out. So Funeral Procession and also Bloodstains the Circle for opposing reasons. Meaning, like, I think Funeral Procession is one of the slower, more open songs in the entire record. And Bloodstains the Circle is one of the more faster, aggressive songs on the record. Both of them sort of highlight sort of polarities that this Under the Sign of Hell offers that I really liked. The one song that I didn't go for is just that whatever spin the record backwards Satan nonsense. I would have loved another minute and a half of Funeral Procession. It ends so abruptly, and it moves into your soundscape, windswept, sort of instrumental for the next song, the underpass gong whatever that we have.
Underbung.
Yes, underbung.
Underbung.
Anyway, that I felt like I would have loved a little bit more actual songs here, a 3-minute song to be a 4-minute song as opposed to that instrumental part. So yeah, that was the one sort of takeaway, but this record is actually really consistent. So not a lot to dislike here.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, completely agree with Kellen. This is a very consistent record. Starts Revelation of Doom immediately, just crushing. So it's really tough for me to pick favorites on this one. But I mean, if I had to pick one, it would be O Del Eglis, Og Undergong, or Underbung, or Underbong, or whatever we're calling it now. But yeah,
Odorous Underbung.
Odorous. Yeah.
Wasn't he Eihwaz?
Yeah, and apparently in Gorgoroth too. Anyway, but yeah, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, I really love the distorted bass sounds way up high in there, and I think it really complements Infernus's riffing on, and there's some and I love like the real cloppy kind of double bass sound, and it's of the drums, and on this song it's really up there and prevalent in the mix. So I think the song is just driving and crushing, and I actually think the closer on this album is good too. I really like Devil Is Calling. It's a good slow tempo. The sound on the bass is still distorted, but it's different. He's doing something different. I don't know if it's a different pedal or just he played with the settings or something. But that with the slower tempo and everything, it's kind of a surprise in terms of all the ferocity that comes before. So I think it's a great way to contrast the album and close it. You know what I mean? But not in a weak way. It's still powerful. It's still Gorgoroth. It still has a lot of energy, but it's just a little slower. And I think if you're just listening to it on repeat, like we were getting ready for this evening, it's a great way to kind of finish off the album and then go back to start again with Revelation of Doom. So all 3 of those songs are really great for me. But I got to also, call out the vocals on Propheten's Abendbarring. That's when he does the crazy, drunk Viking vocal. And I also, TJ, I agree with you on Rite of Infernal Invocation. There's a great hammer-on kind of a riff at 2:15. It's just really weird. It's like, it's just really weird. But every time I hear it, I'm like, man, I really love that. Like I want to figure that one out. And that sort of ferocity of the punk side is there. The only thing that sucks is that weird 2 minutes of noise at the end. The song didn't need it. And to your point, Kellen, I could have used another couple minutes of Rite of Infernal, instead of the wind blowing through their hair thing. But worst is Postludium. I'm cool with them trying new things and all that, but in terms of it being just a bunch of noise and backwards masking and weird samples and stuff, that's the kind of thing I'm going to listen to once when I first hear the record, and then I'm never going to listen to it again. And if I'm playing it on vinyl and the song comes on, that's when I'm going to leave the room, grab a beer, make a sandwich or something. So that to me is just, I don't really care. But that aside, which, I really don't even call that a song. I really think this is an amazingly consistent record from front to back. I really, really enjoy listening to it. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite Gorgoroths. It's third for me. It's kind of like in the order they came out: Pentagram, Antichrist, and Under the Sign of Hell. But all three, I'm always going to listen to. I really love these records. So.
All right. Favorites. Well, Funeral Procession is my favorite song on here. It's short, which is unfortunate. It's like they come up with these really great ideas. We're doing it. We're writing a good song. Like, let's just end it, and then do this noise thing. It's like the album is really under a half hour long if you cut off all the garbage. But the Funeral Procession song and the Odell Legasella Og Underbung, that song, that is a really good song as well. Blood Stains a Circle. Very just solid Norwegian black metal. I love it. It's in that era. It's 1997. It's starting to get a little late at that point. I shouldn't say late. There's a lot going on in 97. Still a lot of great records, but it has the vibe. I love the sound. I love the vocals, the way they sit, just blazing over the top of the music. It's just a great Norwegian vibe. I dig it. And The Devil Is Calling, they end the album on more of a slow note, which is interesting, but it's got a lot of mood and vibe to it. At the end of my favorite on the album is Revelation of Doom. Obviously a good track. I like the aggression part of it. Made questionable by the insane snare sound and mix. The mix of it is just bizarre. It sounds like they messed it up, but they're like, we're Gorgoroth, screw music production. We're just gonna hear our evil type of thing. But other than the noise tracks, this is a great collection of songs. My least favorite, of course, is the Postludium backwards track with ambience. It's just filler. The Rite of the Infernal Invocation. It's a killer black metal track that they cut around the 2-minute mark, and just over half of the song is just one droning jet engine sound off in the distance. It goes nowhere. It's dumb. It's not hypnotic. It's not atmospheric. It's an annoyance. It's filler. Like, okay, the song's not done. Fuck it. Let's just do this in the studio. Ooh, we're really crossing boundaries. I think it's a waste of time. But other than that, that's about it. Which leads us to Judgment. Final thoughts. We'll start with Kellen.
Yeah, so I just want to circle back. What were the Jim, you mentioned like your essential big 5 Norwegian black metal bands. Do you remember what they were?
Yeah, I mean, and this is
sure.
This is just my thoughts.
Sure.
I mean, people debate this to no end, but for me, it's Burzum, Immortal, Mayhem, Dark Throne, Emperor. I feel like those guys were all kind of at the beginning, and everybody else sort of spawned after that.
Yeah.
You can. So they're the ones who I kind of think were for second wave Norwegian. I feel like they were the center and sprung out from there. So.
Sure.
I think the earliest would be Mayhem, Burzum, and Dark Throne. Those, and I think it was more specifically Dark Throne and Burzum that kind of coined the sound, that nailed in the sound.
Right, and I think you could totally make a case for Immortal and Emperor being, in terms of visibility, popularity, so on and so forth. Like, I get it. I was just thinking, like, Gorgoroth, Satyricon, like these are other, I think, essential bands, whether you love them or not, are part of the conversation. I'm a huge Eternus fan. I know Marty thinks that's mostly a death metal band. We're not going to get into that, but but I mean, I guess my point
is
because
a death metal band wears some corpse paint doesn't make them a black metal band.
I opened this door. I opened this door. I love it away and just not said anything. Anyway,
Eternus is cool.
Yeah.
If TJ likes it, it's definitely a death metal band, Kellen. I'm just saying right there. There it is. There's no other litmus test than that.
Where I'm heading with this is if that makes them second tier, that they're grouped along with those bands, like that's absolutely fine because all of them have released classic essential
Oh,
records.
It's so
And
essential.
And if they're like in part of that consideration, I love Pentagram for simplicity, but if you're asking me, like, there are a couple, what does Gorgoroth have to offer? There are a handful of records in their catalog that I think are essential Norwegian black metal records. And Under the Sign of Hell, it should be one of them. So if you're, done with, you've listened to your Dark Throne and Burzum records and you're looking for something else, a band that did something a little bit different, if just really straight to the point, simple, classic Norwegian black metal. It's kind of like, I don't know, the obituary of Norwegian black metal, right? It's just simple, to the point. It's not complicated, but they know what they're doing. They get it right. Those records, I think the early Gorgoroth records should be part of your collection, and Under the Sign of Hell is a great one. I'm happy to own it. So high recommendation.
Well, here's another guy that could be in Kellen's club.
Yeah, okay. I'm walking away. I threw it out there. Always he'd be,
Listen,
up on. So
we just got through telling you I like the band. It's death metal. All right. We know. All you gotta do is ask. I'll fix it. I'll let you know.
Okay. TJ, final thoughts.
I don't know. You went 4 out of 5, a B. I liked it. I mean,
The room is spinning.
Hey, those are high marks for me.
I can't believe it. The guy that hates black metal, every single black metal we've covered, he likes it.
They get a full letter grade deduction for simply being a black metal band. So that's automatic. Boom. Down. So there's no A for the impossible on my grading scale. But that being said, no, I did end up liking this. That's right, Laps. You heard it here first. I'll fix it. I can take it's fine. But yeah, no, man, I ended up liking this. I was really, like I said, I wanted to hate it. I didn't. What can I say? That's not true. I fucking hate that Be Here It record. That was terrible.
But you end up giving it a good grade at the end of it, which made 0%.
But that was just me trying to be objective. That was all, being fair. Instead of now, 15-year-old me would be like this. Well, you know what I would have said. So we'll keep it family friendly for a second. But no. What can I say, man? It's a cool record. It's delivered with a conviction, and the riffing and the structures are great. It's a cool record. I mean, will I buy this? Debatable. I don't know. I don't feel like I need this record really. But then again, I don't know, man. I liked it. So, I find it in the used bin, I might pick it up. But that, either way, it's definitely cool.
All right. Jim, did you go?
I have not. No.
Now you do.
And Metal Neanderthal, great call. I forgot about that Frank Watkins, the bass player who passed away from Obituary, did play with Gorgoroth.
Yeah, end of his. Yeah.
He did.
That's right.
Completely forgot about that. That's a great.
That.
So Kellen, you subconsciously made that Obituary Gorgoroth connection. That's pretty awesome. Obviously this is my pick. No surprise. I love this record. I love Gorgoroth. They've always been, since I first started getting into black metal, one of my favorites. And maybe it's because, I feel like embedded in Infernus's style, there is that thrash element there. And maybe even like a little bit of death metal too, like on the last song on Antichrist. I always kind of felt like it was a little like slower death metal sound. But yeah, I mean, this album's an A for me, and I think, if you've got Pentagram if you got Antichrist, you should definitely have this too. I think that Hat's vocals and Pest's vocals are similar. And it's Infernus consistent playing on this, and it's just as punishing as those other albums. So it's a must for me. It definitely gets an A. So heck yeah, if I think most people probably on the show have already heard it, but if it's been a long time, give it another listen, and I think you're going to find that there's a lot there to return to. So.
I agree with everybody on this. Nothing really more to add other than it's a solid late 90s black metal record. Norway, after the 90s, really kind of starts to lose its mind a little bit. Bands start to go more modern death metal or electronic, which is fine. Gorgoroth kind of maintained more Gorgoroth, which is good because a lot of the black metal bands lost their way. Other bands like Tolka or Talk or Take or however you say it, I think it's Tolka, but that's another band that came out around there and stayed the course the whole time. But I love this era. I love Norwegian black metal, and it was really great to reconnect with this record. It's a solid B album for me. Yeah, it was great to reconnect with it. It's been a lot of years. I haven't listened to Gorgoroth in some time, and it's kind of made me want to revisit some of these even some of the Gall records. And I think the last two other records I have not even heard. So if time permits, it will definitely be circling around to some of that as well. But
throw that Ad Majorum on there, man. That's a great record.
I think I have that one. I'll have to check it out. It's been a while.
Kicks ass on that one. Yeah.
But now the moment of truth. TJ has been exacting his revenge. He's had his list like Santa Claus. He's been checking it twice. We've all been naughty. We've all been very naughty.
Johnny Touch returns.
You're gonna learn.
No,
you're gonna learn. No, listen. No, this one will piss you off even more. So after a lot of deliberating, it was like, do we want black metal with saxophones? I don't know. So I've decided we're gonna do the new release by an Arizona band called Kardashev, Luminal Right.
How do you spell this?
Kardashev.
EV.
You'll come across.
What's the name of the record?
Luminal Right. You'll come across a scientist named. If you do a Google search, there's a scientist with that name, and that's where they got the name from. But
I'm starting to get the gist that this is a mall metal record. Is this correct?
No.
Oh, no.
No. Not at all.
I will fix them their black metal ways with new metal.
No. I will. I will. Their bio does cite them as having some deathcore in their first record, whatever.
Look at Kellen's face right now.
Yeah, I know. It's not. It's not that
like
at all.
Someone just shitting his Wheaties.
It's post metal, post death metal stuff. It's artsy fartsy. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I love it and suck on it. That's there.
All right. Well, that brings us to a close here. Please go check out Eihwaz Recordings, which Jim is the proprietor of. Link in the description. Please go check out Killing for Company YouTube channel. Kellen does an amazing job over there, and he's been going through this whole audio file thing, which is a lot of fun. Go check out The Glorious Dead. TJ and myself are both in this band. We have a new album that's at the plant right now. Album number 2. It should be coming here in a couple months. Should be a lot of fun. But anyway, that's it. Friday's episode of Heavy Metallurgy. We've got Justin from Vestibon's Bloodbox YouTube channel stopping by. We're going to be talking about Gothic metal and Gothic rock bands. It should be a lot of fun. That's it. Cheers, everyone. Does anybody have anything to say before we shut the door? No. Okay. Screw all you guys. We're leaving.
Listen to Gorgoroth.